Is sobriety really an everyday struggle? I don't think it is. I think a lot of well meaning people kind of play it up. Maybe they're in early sobriety, it's only been 30, 60, 90 days, and they're saying to themselves, oh, like this sucks. This is an everyday struggle. And they just kind of assume that this is the way it's always going to be. And then you're surrounded by a bunch of other people who are kind of at similar, sobriety dates as you, and they're saying the same thing. Sobriety is an everyday struggle. Every day it's just like, oh, like I'm doing everything I can in order to stay sober. And if I'm being honest, I think that's a reality for a lot of people for a season. And once that season is up, you start to hit a stride and you start feeling a lot better about being sober. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, so I am 8.5, some change years sober, and it's not an everyday struggle. I still have major depressive disorder. I still have generalized anxiety disorder. But if you're talking about cravings, that feeling of, am I going to relapse today or stay sober, stay on the bandwagon, that's almost never a concern. And I've gotten to a point in my life where I think my recovery, knock on wood, is pretty consistent. I've found myself a counselor. I know the coping skills that work for me. I know my weaknesses, the chinks in my armor that I need to watch out for. And I think that people just need to become a little bit more self-aware about themselves. And throughout the process of that early recovery, you start identifying the kind of the thought patterns, the lies that you've been programmed to believe in your addiction. You start kind of filtering them out one by one. And if I'm being honest, from a neurological standpoint, it takes about a year for your dopamine levels, your neurotransmitters, to kind of fall back into an equilibrium, because the drugs, they kind of just like hijacked your brain for such a long time. And it takes time for that to get back to a place of stability. And so you're kind of in a season at the beginning of your recovery where you're running on E. You feel like you never have enough energy. You are struggling with triggers and cravings and old friends and wanting to go to old places and old habits that are dying hard. But the longer you stay sober, the more you start to fall away from all of that old lifestyle junk. The more you begin to develop new habits, make new friends, your brain starts to even out. And honestly, man, if I had to say the moment in time where I felt something shift in my sobriety, where something was different, I would have to say it was probably around 2 years where I realized that, oh, this isn't a joke anymore. Like, I'm actually doing this. And the last time I seriously considered having a relapse was probably about 4 years into my recovery. It was just, just a something that had caught me off guard. A person I deeply respected told me that he drank occasionally. It caused me to wonder if I could drink occasionally. And it took me 2 weeks to finally come to the conclusion that just because he can doesn't mean I can. And I've got way too much to lose. And ever since that moment, it's been an absolute ride or die for my recovery. And there's some good days, there's some bad days. But there are no days where I consider going back to that old lifestyle. And if you stick with it, I know that you're going to get to a point where relapse isn't even on the table for you anymore.